Hudson County View Live and Uncut, and I'm your host, not always a saint, but rarely a sinner, and he has the attitude and the mindset of a certified winner, John R. Highness. So today we got the latest and greatest in Hudson County news, just like every week. And first of all, let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the contract between Hudson County and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So the other day, we saw the ACLU came out against the 5 plaintiffs in the lawsuit filed by the Hudson County Executive. Of course, that's Tom DeGees, and 5 county commissioners. And then we saw that the ACLU said this is unconstitutional. They're seeking a motion to dismiss. That was Tuesday night. Then yesterday, we saw in a really unexpected move that the Essex County Executive, Joe DiVincenzo, said they're getting out of the ICE business, and they're doing that in a partnership with Union County. And now all eyes are on Hudson and Bergen about what's going to happen next. We saw that Board of County Commissioner Chair Anthony Veneri told Politico late last night that he's open to ideas and he's open to getting out of this business. Of course, we've heard this before, so I don't know where this is going, but there is a meeting tonight, and I think it promises to be an interesting one. So certainly that's something we're going to talk about. We also are going to talk about former Jersey City police officer Denzel Sweet. He was convicted of official misconduct that was last year, and there's been a rally in light of his sentencing, and law enforcement and activists are saying that this trial was unjust, he deserves a new one, and basically that this conviction should have never happened. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. And like we do most weeks, we're going to talk about what's happening in the Mile Square City. And sitting right next to me at the moment is 6th Ward Councilwoman Jen Giattino. She's also the Vice President of the governing body this year. So we have a lot of fun stuff to discuss on that end as well. Before we get into any of that, we're going to take a quick break from our sponsors.
Brothers, Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design, studio, and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers, Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net. Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants, all major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Newport, the luxury waterfront community on the Hudson River, offers a quality of life you deserve in 10 high-rise rental towers with amenities such as the on-site Newport Path subway, light rail and ferry service, Newport Town Square, 3 playgrounds, dog run, upscale restaurants, retail giants like Sears, JCPenney, Macy's, and Target. Morton Williams Supermarket is just outside your front door. A health and fitness club, spa, skating rink, and medical facilities are also on site. NewportNJ.com. Enjoy the New York skyline from Newport Town Square. Manhattan is just one path stop away or quick ride through the Holland Tunnel. Nursery and private elementary schools all on site. 12-screen movie theater at the Newport Center Mall. Want to visit Newport? Stay at the Westin or Marriott Hotel. Go to NewportNJ.com for details. Newport has luxurious towers, great restaurants, shopping, New York skyline views, schools, playgrounds, a marina and yacht club, gym, spa, fine wine, fine living. It's incredible. It's you. NewportNJ.com. Newport, live like you want.
Hudson County View Live and Uncut, John R. Highness. And as I just mentioned a few moments ago today, I'm joined with Hoboken 6th Ward Councilwoman Jen Giattino. Councilwoman, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So obviously we heard quite a few things out of the Mile Square last week. So first and foremost, something that actually made the TV networks, at least one, was the situation with the Airbnb and First Ward Councilman Mike DeFusco. So, you know, obviously he had been renting out his home about a couple dozen times, give or take, over the course of the pandemic, I believe starting in August. And, you know, he defended his position, of course. He said that he's been accessible to residents. And he said that, you know, this was still his primary residence. It would be preposterous to say he lives elsewhere, so on and so forth. You're quite familiar with the story. So just what was your take on this whole turn of events?
I think if we weren't in pandemic time and he had been out of Hoboken for a year, not during pandemic time, I would have a different opinion, but I feel like 50% of the people I know in Hoboken have actually gone elsewhere during the pandemic. I never had a constituent say anything to me that he wasn't accessible. He's on all our Zoom meetings. We're all sitting in our own home anyway. I think if City Hall was open, that would be another story too, if we were meeting in City Hall, but I think people just needed to do whatever they needed to do to get through this, and I'm not going to judge anyone.
So as far as you're concerned, no harm, no foul.
Yep.
All right, very good. So Ned, let's go to the council meeting where certainly you had a lot to say, and among others, but starting with McSwiggins and this whole parklet situation, obviously this isn't new, right? We saw this last spring and last summer, but I think the thing that made this a little different was the build out didn't have input from residents, and that certainly made some people upset. We heard that during the public comment, and then we heard from Corporation Counsel about whether or not this was state or city law, and he seemed to change his position on that. So just tell me how this came to light and why this was a big issue for you.
I've had a lot of the residents on Bloomfield between First and Second reach out to me about the parklet. I'm very supportive of parklets. I've publicly said many times I'd like parklets to stay forever. I don't think McSwiggins did anything wrong by not notifying the residents, because I know many other parklets were built in town without the residents being notified. There's such a simple solution to it, which is moving it to First Street. I hope that can get some legs, and that does happen. I did meet with McSwiggins about it. All the neighbors on the block seem like for them that's the solution, and that will solve the problem. The difference with McSwiggins and a restaurant is people are there drinking. They tend to be a little bit louder. When people are in a neighborhood just sitting and dining in a restaurant, it doesn't interrupt the quality of life of the residents. And the people on that block feel that this really interrupts their quality of life. Like I said, super easy solution, move it to First Street.
Very good. Now, one thing during the discussion, at least last week, was Corporation Counsel at first seemed pretty adamant that they were just following the state guidelines put forth by Governor Murphy, and by the time, about an hour later...
After Councilwoman Fisher was done with them.
Yeah, you could say that for sure. After Councilwoman Fisher was done with them, he reversed his position and said, this is really a city issue. Of course, I'm paraphrasing, but what was the miscommunication there? Do you have any clue?
No, and I think possibly the administration just wanted to make things as easy as they possibly could for the restaurants and bars, but it doesn't mean that you should just ignore the residents. We need to do this, so moving forward, parklets are something that the residents are okay with. When you just say no, they can do whatever they want. We have 15 days, I think they said we have 15 days to approve it, and they can put it in the street if they like, which everyone knew to be false. I don't know why they kept pushing that narrative, but I was just happy in the end that Corporation Counsel agreed with some of the members of the City Council that no, a restaurant or bar does not have the right just to put something in our city streets.
So moving forward, how would you like to see this process of building a new parklet go, whether it's through the council or the administration or a collaborative effort? What do you think is the right approach here?
I do think it should be collaborative. I mean, you definitely need the zoning officer involved. Director Gonzalez she really has been amazing with helping the restaurants and bars to understand exactly what they need to do. But I think we need to have different guidelines, like design guidelines for the parklets. You can tell that the ones that are very pretty, those neighborhoods don't seem to mind them at all because it's almost a welcome addition to the neighborhood. So there have to be design guidelines. The cost structure has to change. Right now it's 50 cents per linear foot, which I am totally supportive of. To be honest, I wouldn't even care if they didn't pay during this time, to make sure they have solid footing moving forward, and anything, we can do to help them retain some revenues, I am 100% supportive for. I would actually think we could use COVID money for that as well. But when the pandemic's over, clearly it's not going to be, I don't know what the price is, but it's not going to be 50 cents per linear foot. It has to be something that makes sense economically for the city.
Sure, fair and equitable for everyone. Great timing. We actually got to take a break from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
cutting-edge surgical care is right here in Secaucus.
Robotic surgery is safer.
Shorter hospital stays.
Smaller abdominal incisions, the size of an M&M. Here at Hudson Regional, we provide world-class robotic surgical care.
Good Friend Self Storage in North Bergen, New Jersey is a fully climate-controlled facility equipped with state-of-the-art security, packing supplies, a Refer a Friend program, and multiple loading docks convenient for commercial use. Located just off of Route 3 at 4301 Tunnelly Avenue, Route 1 and 9. Call 201-867-2444 or visit us on the web today. Good Friend Self Storage. Let us be your good friend.
Hudson County View live and uncut. John R. Hydus, and I'm still with Hoboken 6th Ward Councilwoman Jen Giattino. So, obviously, that wasn't the conclusion of the conversation there. I mean, we talked about, the logistics and the policy end, but, well, I don't know where you'd put this. I guess we'll call it the nitty-gritty politics, but you were talking about a meeting you were sitting in that involved Assistant Corporation Counsel John Allen, Mayor Ravi Bali, yourself, and others from the bar and restaurateur section of Hoboken. And at that meeting, you pointed out that John referred to himself as some sort of liaison to the mayor, and you were trying to get an answer from Corporation Counsel if that was appropriate. He said he wasn't really sure. He'd have to hear the particulars, something along those lines. Can you give us a little more color on what exactly happened at the meeting you were referencing?
But to be clear, it was the mayor that said John Allen was his liaison. He said to the restaurant and bar owners, if you have any issues, concerns, you need any help with the restaurants or bars, your restaurant or bar, reach out to John Allen. He is my liaison. So it came directly from the mayor. And when I heard it, maybe for like 10 seconds, I didn't really think anything about it. But then literally the next couple days, it just was, I said this in the council meeting, it was like eating at me. It was. I just felt like I'm a council person. I have a moral and fiduciary responsibility to the city. And this doesn't seem like it's appropriate. And is it putting the city at risk? I mean, these are all questions I have. I don't know the answer. But I was hoping that Corporation Counsel would give that answer to me. I mean, does our insurance carrier know that the ABC board attorney is also the liaison to the bars and restaurants, and are they fine with that? Or are they not fine with that?
Now, obviously, this was over a week ago. Have you heard anything further from Corporation Counsel or the law department?
No, nothing at all.
Okay. And nobody else has weighed in on this either?
No, no one.
Okay. Well, I mean, I imagine that's probably not going to change in the foreseeable future. So, I mean, do you have any recommendations, suggestions, or thoughts on what could possibly be done here?
Yes, they should they should just remove him as the ABC board attorney. If the mayor wants him to be his liaison, he should not also be the ABC board attorney.
All right. Well, yeah, that sounds like a fairly simple remedy. I guess we'll see what happens in the coming days and weeks. But beyond that, let's talk a little bit on a broader picture here. Obviously, we had a bit of a discussion about the parklets. We're hearing it pretty much almost every day about how Governor Murphy's going to open up New Jersey, and we're going to return to normal. Obviously, people are getting vaccinated. We're over 50% in New Jersey, according to the governor. So, what do you think that looks like, and what do you think that means for Hoboken?
I think it was yesterday that you were allowed to, if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. And I went to the dog run, and it was interesting because everyone still had their mask on. But then today, when I went, and people are definitely staying 6 feet apart from one another, but I would say it was 50% without a mask on. And there's definitely like a very positive feeling that we're on, we're approaching the end of this, or at least moving in the right direction. Hoboken really, really needs things to, everyone does, but our town, I feel like our town, it's a place where people go to eat, it's a place where people go to shop. Opening up, once everything's opened up again, I think, one, you'll start to see all the businesses at least making money again. Excuse me, one issue they are having though is employing people, and I don't know if that carries forward. I know like lots of the restaurants are having a really hard time getting staff right now. So who knows what that looks like, but overall, obviously it's a good thing. We're moving in the right direction. It's nice to see not so many cases all the time, every day. It's nice to see, older people out and about because they've been stuck in their home for a year. And unfortunately, many of them live alone. And I think it was really depressing for a lot of people, which actually brings me to Mike DeFusco. When I think about Mike DeFusco and everyone trying to judge him, he lives alone. I don't live alone. I have, I'm dying to be alone. I have 4 other people in my house. I don't know what he's experiencing. But I think for people's mental health, this is very much needed.
So on that point, your colleague and your friend, Councilwoman Fisher, she made a similar point, and she basically attributed all of that to election season politics. Now, needless to tell you, pretty much every week feels like election season in Hoboken, but right now the mayor's running unopposed despite having vocal critics on the council and elsewhere. So what do you make of that, and where do you think this goes, and where does that leave you at the end of the day?
What do you mean by where does it leave me?
Well, would you ever consider running again in this election cycle?
I would consider it. I've talked about it with my husband. I do still think I'm focused on getting through COVID right now, and my son is graduating high school, and on Friday's his last day, and getting to the end of the year and probably going on a nice vacation with my children, and then I'll have a real discussion about it. And I do think that there'll be people on the council that are running. I think everyone's in a very similar mode that I'm in at this particular moment.
So you're banking on the incumbent not running unopposed?
Yes, I can't see that happening.
All right, very good, Councilwoman. Thank you again for your time. We appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. We're not done yet, but we are going to take another break.
Pen & Pencil Properties, Jersey City. Shaping the workplace with state-of-the-art office spaces that address your company desires. Building residences that define your home environment, adjacent to all modes of transportation with on-site parking available. The right address, the right lease. Call 201-521-9000 or visit online at penandpencilproperties.com.
Stevens Jersey City Ford, located right off of NJ 440 North. Across the Hudson Mall is your one-stop for all your automotive needs. Check out Ford's latest models like the 2020 Ford Fusion with its stylish looks and hybrid options, or the unparalleled high-performance 2020 Ford Mustang. The 2020 Ford F-150 Raptor is ready for those rugged off-road terrains with trail control. Need a mid-sized truck for your towing and hauling? The 2020 Ford Ranger will deliver. The 2020 Ford Escape is a luxury SUV that was made for comfort and adventure on the go. Returning is Ford's legendary Bronco, which takes you back to the true meaning of off-roading. They are now available for pre-order in our showroom or on our website. Let us help you find your next vehicle. Stevens Jersey City Ford, 201-432-7272.
Hudson County View live and uncut, John Arhitis. So, as I mentioned at the top of the program, ICE has once again entered the picture here in Hudson County. So let me first tell you about what happened just the other day. The ACLU on Tuesday evening filed this motion. This is a motion to dismiss a lawsuit brought forth by the Hudson County Executive and 5 of the county commissioners. This was filed back in December. As I'm sure you guys remember quite well, This led to a temporary restraining order being granted by Hudson County Superior Court Judge Jablonski, who has actually since become the assignment court judge. And that had pretty wide-spanning impacts. I mean, in case you don't recall, just a quick rundown, it did completely prevent protests, but it certainly made it very difficult, and it certainly made the scope of the protest pretty small. So, for example, the protests can't exceed 10 people. Protesters cannot come within 200 feet of the county executive's property over there in the Jersey City Heights. Picketing can only occur between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. Protests can only take place once every 2 weeks. The Hudson County Sheriff's Office must be notified 24 hours prior to the start of any protest. So obviously, you know, that's pretty specific, and that was something that the people who had been protesting this ICE contract for many months did not want to hear. And actually, the day that the TRO was issued, we saw a handful of people arrested. They were held in contempt for violating the TRO. And with all that, the ACLU has had this to say. This case is about the people's right to speak and protest against a government policy. Our clients were using public sidewalks to express themselves and should be subject to the same laws as everyone else who uses them. And that's from the ACL-NJ legal director, that's Jen Giattino. And she went on to say these officials went to court to insulate themselves from opposing views. It's not just a misuse of public resources, it's also unconstitutional. Obviously pretty strong words. And beyond that, we also heard from the executive director of the ACLU, of course, the New Jersey chapter, that's Amal Sinha, and he said, with these extreme restrictions in place, it's clear that for this targeted group of people, speech is no longer free. Government officials cannot single out one cause to silence. Hudson County officials cannot criminalize views they oppose and silence opponents of the ICE contract throughout the entire county. It's a long brief, it's 69 pages, and it goes on to talk about how the defendants have suffered harm, you know, physical and emotional stress as a result of this. And, you know, there's a number of other things they talk about too. You know, they're talking about the violation of freedom of speech, as you've heard already. And we also heard from Hudson County Executive Tom DeGees. And certainly he sounded like someone who feels confident that he's going to prevail when this motion is heard. And that's currently scheduled for May 14th. So the county executive told me, we're confident, but their argument, I'm not a lawyer, it's pretty ridiculous. They have a right to protest, but the people on New York Avenue, me and my wife, have a right to privacy and peace and quiet. All these out-of-towners coming in the dead of night crosses the line, as does yelling fire in a crowded theater. Thus, a judge has limited their right. So obviously, it's going to be up to the court to decide, and that's going to be something that's going to have a lot of eyes on it, I believe, in the middle of next month. With that in mind, what was really interesting, less than 24 hours later, again, we heard from Essex County Executive Joe DiVincenzo saying that they were getting out of the ICE business and they were going to team up with Union County to offset some of the costs and to continue doing a deal that involved incarceration. So basically what I'm saying is they're going to be replacing the ICE detainees with inmates from Union County. Their jail is going to be closing in the foreseeable future. Now, some activists that have spoken out against ICE said that they didn't like this decision because it is still relying on incarceration. And basically they thought there could have been some more forward thinking, especially in light of funding provided through President Joe Biden's American Rescue Plan. So what's going to happen in Hudson? Well, it's hard to say exactly right now, but I can tell you that the Board of Commissioners is meeting tonight at 6 o'clock, and that'll convene on Zoom. The link is on their website. And we've already heard, though, from the chair, as I mentioned at the top of the program, and he said that he's open to getting out of the contract sooner than later. So I'm sure that he's going to have a lot to say. I'm sure that the community is going to have a lot to say. And I think we're going to get a clear understanding of where this is going to go in the coming weeks and months at tonight's meeting. So if this is a topic that's of interest to you, I strongly suggest you tune in. And if for whatever reason you can't do to work or family obligations or anything else, don't worry, you know, we'll certainly be reporting on it and we'll have a full recap available tomorrow morning. So I just want to, before we go to our last break, I just want to touch on something out of East Newark. I know we don't get a whole ton of news out of West Hudson, but we actually had a Superior Court of New Jersey Appellate Division ruling out of East Newark last week. Doesn't happen often, but exactly 7 days ago, they ruled that the Board of Education referendum will not be on the November ballot. And the reason being was essentially that the clerical errors were not addressed properly. So what I mean by that, if you look at the decision from appellate judges Michael Oster, Allison Accurso, and Francis Vanoia, They explained, the clerk rejected the question as ultimately based on Executive Order 177, which shortened the deadline to submit public questions to August 31st in order to allow enough time for the county clerks to print and mail the ballots to voters in the November 3rd, 2020 general election. Now, you'll notice I said 2020. That's because the East Newark Board of Ed actually passed this initiative to do a referendum, a ballot question, but all the way back in September of last year, and they were going to wait after a challenge from the city came in, the borough, I should say, came in. And they did, and they were going to wait, and they were going to do it this April, and they couldn't do that because East Newark is a Type 1 school district, which means it's appointed, and there's only April elections for a Type 2 school districts. So long story short, the Superior Court overturned the lower court's decision, and now it looks like we're back to the drawing board because this is not happening this year, barring some sort of action by the Supreme Court, which, I mean, is possible, but we have no inkling at this moment that that's going to happen. So with that, we're going to take one final break. We'll be right back.
Hudson Regional Hospital, we promise to be prepared for your emergency.
We promise to provide world-class robotic surgical care.
We promise to treat you like family.
To provide accurate diagnostic care.
To provide the most innovative orthopedic care at your doorsteps.
We promise to treat your baby like our own.
To never stop investing in the best of spinal care.
To be with you every step of the way.
Here at Hudson Regional Hospital, we promise to take care of our community.
Hudson County View live and uncut, John Arhitis. So also we want to talk about what was happening, as I mentioned again at the top of the program, with former Jersey City police officer Denzel Sweet. So yesterday, actually that was Tuesday, we heard from black law enforcement serving community, people know them as BLESC, and they teamed up with some black activists in front of their headquarters on Martin Luther King Drive, and they called for Sweet to get a new trial after they believed that he was unjustly convicted. Now, on March 25th, 2018, Sweet conducted a traffic stop of Jermaine Pobbs and Jonathan Davis. He allegedly stole $600 in the process, according to the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office. So, a jury ultimately convicted him of theft in the value of $500 or less, as well as official misconduct with a benefit not greater than $200. Obviously, that sounds a little inconsistent, which was noted at the rally, because if he stole $600, how could he have a value or benefit not greater than $200? But I mean, that was just one of several points that came up, and this rally actually came to fruition after an in-depth piece was published by Rio Grande State questioning the validity of this outcome. So, we heard from Blessed President Anthony Smith, and he said nearly all the circumstantial evidence with his witness testimony and investigation conducted by the Jersey City Police Department, Internal Affairs Unit, and Hudson County Prosecutor's Office has dubious issues. And we also heard from Vice President John Boma, who has said that Sweet has been dealt a horrible hand in life that he didn't deserve. He talked about him being raised in the foster care system. He talked about him, basically beating the odds to go to the police academy and become an officer for this to happen, which essentially everyone at the rally, which included Ward F Council candidate and activist Frank Educational Gilmore, former Ward B Councilman Chris Gadsden, another activist, and others speaking at the rally, even Sweet himself. And while he couldn't speak at length, since this matter is still open in court, he hasn't been sentenced yet. And actually, of note, he was supposed to be sentenced the following day, but that has been postponed to June 2nd in light of the article and in light of this rally. So Sweet said, as of now, I'd just like to say I do agree with everything that has been said here today. I do believe that I face an injustice, and I hope that someday in the near future that it does get corrected. The HCPO declined to comment. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next week.